What if Angel Dust was a raid boss in World of Warcraft? The first ever guest at the hotel, Angel Dust makes his stand inside the hotel's theater. Though many would mistake his feminine appearance for a sign of weakness, he's very eager to show this band of invaders every dirty trick he's picked up over the years. Angel Dust is a lengthy 4-phase encounter. The fight heavily showcases the duality of his sultry, seductive porn star modern self and his ruthless gangster former self, as well as the most significant connections he's made over the years, for good or ill. In Phase 1, Angel will regularly act out in an attempt to subtly arouse his opponents in order to distract them. He has a couple abilities that will apply stacks of the Seduction debuff. This reduces damage dealt and increases damage taken by 3% per stack. When a player reaches 4 stacks, Angel Dust will take advantage of the player's distracted state with Fans Made Prey, dealing massive damage to all players with 4 stacks, as well as resetting their stacks. Seduction is applied through 2 abilities: Gentle Moan, which is unavoidable and applies a stack to the whole raid, and Flourish, which applies a stack to all players facing him. Ideally, players should divide into 2 groups, with one group taking 2 extra flourishes on purpose to stagger the raid damage. Aside from that, he has a number of other abilities. Venomous Bite will periodically be used on the current target, dealing damage and increasing damage taken by Venomous Bite by 50% for 20 seconds, stacking with every hit, so tanks will periodically need to tank swap throughout the fight. Wild Gunfire damages random players, this needs to be healed through. Additionally, Spray and Pray, he'll face a random player and begin spraying bullets in a cone. Simply move out of the way when this happens to reduce the strain on the healers. Every so often, Angel Dust will take out a bag of drugs, granting him an Absorb Shield, buffing his attack speed by 20% and damage dealt by 5%. Once enough damage is dealt to the shield, his drugs will fly to nearby areas on the floor. Everyone will want to try to run to one of these spots because when they land, everyone in one of the impact zones will gain a buff, granting 20% haste and 10% movement speed for 15 seconds. Lastly, for Phase 1 is Valentino's Haze. Clouds of smoke will be placed on top of random players, obscuring their vision, forcing them to move. These clouds will disappear after 10 seconds, but on heroic difficulty and above, they will not despawn automatically. Instead, these clouds can only be cleared by mechanics present in Phase 2. Once Angel Dust hits 85% health, Cherry Bomb will join the fight, eager to help out her friend, beginning Phase 2. She needs to be tanked, or else people are likely to get killed by her ability Heavy Swing. However, she has no tank swap mechanic of her own, so you'll only have to worry about Venomous Bite. Angel and Cherry also share damage taken, so cleave damage will be invaluable in speeding the fight along. All mechanics from Phase 1 persist, as well as new ones from Cherry Bomb herself. She'll randomly target a player with Rocket Blast, spending 5 seconds aiming, then pausing for a second to fire, giving the target a chance to get out of the way. If a rocket collides with a player, the rocket will explode, dealing significant damage and knockback to players within 5 yards of the explosion. If rockets pass through or explode near haze clouds, they will dissipate. Sticky bombs will be periodically thrown onto random players. When they explode, damage is dealt to the raid based on proximity. Players targeted will need to run away from the raid when this happens. The explosion from this ability will also clear haze clouds within 10 yards, so be mindful of that and take advantage whenever possible. Lastly, Cherry Bomb will periodically leap into the air and bomb the ground, dealing damage within 15 yards of her, as well as clearing haze clouds within that range. Melee will need to run out whenever this happens to avoid getting nuked. Phase 3 begins as soon as Cherry Bomb is killed, leaving Angel Dust at around 60% health. Enraged by her death, Angel will no longer bother with the previous distraction tactics and instead focus all his attention on just killing you, meaning he will no longer use seduction abilities or Valentino's Haze. All remaining haze clouds will also be cleared. Additionally, Valentino himself steps in to personally ensure the safety of his assets. Valentino needs to be tanked and faced away from the raid as he will regularly swipe, dealing damage in a cone in front of him. That being said, he'll typically be tanked away from the rest of the raid anyway. For one, he takes 99% reduced damage, so DPS will be ignoring him a majority of the time. Additionally, tanking him away from the raid will make it easier to deal with the ability Chains of Domination, which will pull players towards him over 6 seconds, and after this ability ends, he'll cast Noxious Fumes, dealing damage to everyone within 30 yards, as well as reducing damage dealt and increasing damage taken by 15% for 10 seconds. This brief period where the tank on Valentino needs to run away makes for a good time for a tank swap, by the way. Lastly, Valentino possesses the ability Contract, mind-controlling random players, as well as increasing their health by 50% and damage by 20%. Normally, this can be removed by damaging the affected players, like with most other MCs. However, on Mythic, this doesn't work. Instead, Valentino will gain Contractor, giving him an Absorb shield, allowing him to take full damage. Once this shield is removed, all MCs are removed, and Valentino will begin taking reduced damage again. On Mythic, crowd control abilities will be essential in order to manage the mind controls, while the remaining players deal with the shield. Beyond that, Angel Dust has a few new mechanics of his own. Firstly, Piercing Shot. He'll take aim at random players, then fire piercing shots at them, dealing damage in a line. Targeted players will need to spread out so they don't hit anyone else. Additionally, he'll periodically target a few players with Lunge. After a few seconds, he'll leap to the targeted players and attack them, dealing heavy damage split between all players hit. This also inflicts a bleed that takes every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. This effect stacks, so players will need to stack up in separate groups to keep people from getting killed by the initial damage, as well as reducing the damage of the resulting bleed. Lastly, on Heroic and above, he'll spray several players with webs, reducing move speed and haste by 15% for 20 seconds. This is a poison and should be cleansed as soon as possible. Once Angel Dust hits 30%, Valentino will leave the fight. No longer believing the fight to be worth the effort, he opts to cut his losses for the time being. But not before leaving a parting gift so he can extract one last bit of fun from his doomed employee. Fat Nuggets is brought into the encounter. He does not need to be tanked. He'll instead wander around the room, periodically stopping to rush random players, dealing damage and stunning anyone he runs into for 2 seconds. Nuggets can also only take damage from direct attacks. Cleave damage will not work. Killing him will cause Angel Dust to become distraught, increasing his damage taken by 100% for the remainder of the fight. All his mechanics from Phase 3 remain, and he will regularly cast Desperation, increasing his damage dealt by 10% for the rest of the fight, stacking with each use. At this point, the fight becomes a DPS race to the end. Kill him before he kills you. This fight has 3 achievements associated with it. Things Will Be So Terrible is achieved by getting Angel Dust to kill Fat Nuggets himself during the fight. This can be done with a combination of Piercing Shot, which will instantly kill him, and stuns, such as Hammer of Justice, to prevent Nuggets from running out of the way. This achievement is required for the raid's meta achievement. Contrary-wise, if you complete the fight without killing Fat Nuggets, you earn the achievement Even Demons Have Standards, earning you Fat Nuggets as a battle pet. Finally, there's the Mythic achievement for simply killing the boss on the hardest difficulty. And that's the fight. Enjoy the loot.